The Awakening. In the depths of space, an ancient fleet slumbered. Forged by human hands in a time long forgotten, the ships had drifted aimlessly for eons, their crews suspended in cryogenic stasis. But now something stirred within the metal hulls. A signal, faint but insistent, pulsed through the void, triggering long-dormant systems. On the bridge of the flagship, the Avenger, Captain Alexandra Novak awoke with a gasp. She blinked, disoriented, as memories flooded back. The war, the desperate gambit, the long sleep. How much time had passed? "Captain, are you all right?" A concerned voice broke through her haze. She turned to see her first officer, Commander Elias Ricker, already up and running diagnostics at his console. "I'm fine," Alexandra said, shaking off the lingering chill of stasis. "Status report." Elias frowned at his screens. "All systems are coming online. But, Captain, the chronometer, it's showing." "How long?" Alexandra demanded, a knot forming in her stomach. "Over 10,000 years," Elias whispered. "We've been asleep for 10 millennia." Alexandra felt the world tilt beneath her. 10,000 years. The war, the Earth they knew, it was all ancient history now. But then why had they awakened? What had triggered the fleet's revival? Answers came in a flood of data as the ship's eye, Minerva, finished her reboot sequence. "Captain," the AI's serene voice filled the bridge. "We are receiving a distress signal. It's coming from Earth. Earth. Home." Alexandra's heart clenched. On screen, the view screen flickered to life, revealing the blue-green world that was achingly familiar yet utterly alien. Vast cities sprawled across the continents, connected by shimmering webs of light. But orbiting the planet was a massive structure, a ring-shaped behemoth that dwarfed anything humans had ever built. And it was under attack. Swarms of angular, black ships darted around the ring, unleashing torrents of energy that tore through the structure's defenses. Smaller ships, sleek and silver, rose from the planet's surface to meet the attackers, but they were hopelessly outgunned. "Minerva, can you ID the hostiles?" Alexandra asked, her mind racing. "Negative, Captain," the eye replied. "Their technology it's beyond anything in my databases, but the ships defending Earth. They're broadcasting IFF signals. They identify themselves as the United Earth Defense Force." United Earth. So much had changed, yet some things endured. And the ring structure. "It appears to be some sort of orbital government complex," Minerva said. "I'm detecting thousands of life signs aboard, from dozens of different species. But, oh no." Alexandra felt a chill run down her spine. "What is it?" "The attackers, they're not just targeting the ring's defenses," Minerva said, horror creeping into her synthetic voice. "They're hitting the habitation modules. Captain, they're slaughtering civilians." Rage, hot and bright, surged through Alexandra's veins. These aliens, whoever or whatever they were, had made a fatal mistake. They had dared to attack Earth, to spill the blood of innocents. They would learn the true meaning of human wrath. "Minerva, send a fleet-wide signal," Alexandra ordered, her voice cold as the void. "All ships are to prepare for immediate combat jump. We're going in." As the confirmation signals lit up her console, Alexandra stood tall, her eyes fixed on the besieged world that had once been her home. The Avenger and her sister ships had been built for one purpose: to defend humanity against any threat, no matter the odds. That purpose had never been more clear. "This is Captain Alexandra Novak to all ships," she said, her voice ringing across the void. "Our long sleep is over. Earth calls to us, and we will answer." For the first time in 10,000 years, the ancient fleet goes to war. Across the fleet, engines flared to life as the mighty ships prepared to leap into battle. In the heart of each vessel, the spirit of old Earth burned bright, an unquenchable fire that had endured the ages. The aliens, secure in their superior technology and the helplessness of their prey, never saw the human fleet coming. But they were about to learn a harsh lesson, one that would be written in the stars for all to see. Never ever underestimate the depths of human courage, the heights of human ingenuity, or the terrible fury of human vengeance. For the ancient fleet had awoken, and it was hungry for war. First blood. The ancient fleet tore through space, a pack of wolves descending upon unsuspecting prey. On the bridge of the Avenger, Captain Alexandra Novak felt the old thrill of battle rising in her veins, tempered by the weight of responsibility. Her crew, the fleet, the Earth itself, all were counting on her to lead them to victory. "Minerva, what's our ETA to Earth orbit?" Alexandra asked, her eyes never leaving the tactical display. 15 seconds, Captain, the eye replied. The alien ships appear to be concentrating their fire on the central hub of the orbital structure. I believe they're trying to decapitate Earth's leadership. Alexandra's lips curled into a snarl. Not on our watch. All ships, prepare for immediate target acquisition upon reversion. Prioritize the hostiles attacking the hub. Let's show these bastards what happens when you mess with Earth. Acknowledgements flooded in from across the fleet, a chorus of determination and anger. These men and women had slept for 10 millennia, but the fire of human defiance still burned hot in their hearts. The timer counted down. 3, 2, 1. The stars blurred and resolved as the ancient fleet burst back into real space, weapons already cycling to full power. The alien ships, caught off guard by the sudden appearance of reinforcements, scrambled to reorient themselves. Too slow. A torrent of kinetic rounds and energy beams slammed into the alien formation, tearing through their sleek black hulls like tissue paper. Alexandra felt a savage grin tug at her lips as the first wave of attackers disintegrated under the onslaught. "Captain, the remaining hostiles are regrouping." Elias called out from his station. "They're moving to flank us." "Not a chance," Alexandra growled. "Minerva, coordinate with the fleet. I want a pincer maneuver, now. Let's box these bastards in and crush them." With fluid precision born of centuries of training and the best human ingenuity could devise, the ancient fleet split into 2 formations, arcing around to enfold the alien ships in a deadly embrace. The enemy ships opened fire, their strange weapons splashing against the human vessel's shields, but it was a futile gesture. The trap closed, and the aliens learned the folly of their arrogance. In a matter of minutes, it was over. The last alien ship shattered under a barrage from the Avenger's main guns, its twisted remnants spiraling away into the void. A cheer went up from the human crews, a primal roar of victory against impossible odds. But Alexandra didn't join in the celebration. Her eyes were fixed on the ravaged orbital structure, on the gaping wounds in its habitation modules where countless lives had been snuffed out. They had won the battle, but the cost. A hail from the surface interrupted her dark musings. "This is United Earth Defense Command to unknown fleet. Identify yourselves immediately, or be considered hostile." Alexandra straightened in her chair. "This is Captain Alexandra Novak of the Avenger, commanding the ancient fleet. We come in peace and in Earth's defense." There was a long pause. Then a new voice came over the comm, thick with emotion. "Captain Novak, this is President Saren Ixel of the United Earth Federation. On behalf of all the peoples of Earth, thank you. You saved countless lives today." Alexandra swallowed hard, the weight of those lost still heavy on her heart. "We only wish we could have done more, Mr. President. Earth is our home, no matter how long we've been away." "You've done more than we could have ever hoped for," President Ixel said. "Please, we have much to discuss. The attack today, it was just the beginning. Earth needs you, now more than ever." As the comm line closed, Alexandra shared a long look with her crew. 10,000 years, and still humanity found itself beset by threats from the stars. But now, as then, they would face those threats together, with courage, ingenuity, and the unyielding determination that had always been humanity's greatest strength. The ancient fleet had drawn first blood. But the war, they knew was just beginning. A changed world. The ancient fleet hung in orbit, a ring of steel guardians around a world both familiar and strange. On the Avengers Bridge, Captain Alexandra Novak stared at the blue-green globe below, trying to reconcile the Earth of her memories with the reality before her. "It's so different," she murmured, more to herself than anyone else. "The cities, the orbital structures, it's like something out of a science fiction novel." To them, "We're the science fiction," Commander Elias Riker said, coming to stand beside her. 10,000 years, it's hard to wrap your head around." Alexandra nodded, her gaze drawn to the ravaged orbital ring. Repair ships were already swarming over the structure, patching breaches and tending to the wounded, but the scars of battle were still raw and bleeding. A chime from the communications console interrupted her thoughts. "Captain, we're being hailed from the surface. It's President Ixel." On screen. The view screen flickered, resolving into the image of a man in late middle age, his dark skin lined with the weight of responsibility. He smiled warmly as he saw Alexandra, but there was a tightness around his eyes that spoke of recent trauma. "Captain Novak, on behalf of the United Earth Federation, I once again extend our deepest gratitude," President Ixel said. "Your timely intervention saved countless lives." Alexandra inclined her head. "We only wish we could have done more, Mr. President. But we're here now, and we'll do everything in our power to defend Earth." Ixel's smile turned grim. "I'm afraid we may need that commitment sooner than we'd like." The attack on the orbital ring was just the latest in a series of incursions by a hostile alien power known as the Krath Dominion. He tapped a control, and the screen split to show a star map, with a large swath of territory highlighted in angry red. The Dominion has been expanding aggressively for the past century, swallowing up smaller star nations and crushing any resistance. Earth and a handful of other major powers have managed to hold the line so far, but Alexandra leaned forward, studying the map with a tactician's eye. "But now they're making a play for Earth, taking out your government in one swift stroke." Ixel nodded. "Exactly. And with the damage to the orbital ring, our defenses are weaker than ever. Captain, I know you and your crew have already sacrificed so much, but we need your help." Alexandra glanced at Elias, seeing the same determination in his eyes that she felt in her own heart. This was what they had trained for, what they had been born for. The defense of Earth, no matter the odds. "You have it, Mr. President," she said, turning back to the screen. "The ancient fleet is at your disposal. We'll make the Krath rue the day they set their sights on Earth." Relief and gratitude washed over Ixel's face. "Thank you, Captain. I'll have my staff send over all the data we have on the Dominion. In the meantime, I'd like to invite you and your senior officers to the surface, to the capital. There's a lot we need to discuss, and much you need to know about the galaxy you've woken up to." As the screen went blank, Alexandra turned to her crew, seeing the same mix of anticipation and trepidation on their faces that she felt churning in her own gut. The Earth they knew was gone. The galaxy they had fought for transformed beyond recognition. But one thing remained constant: their duty, their purpose. No matter how much had changed, they were still human. They were still Earthers. And they would fight to their last breath to defend their home. Echoes of home. The shuttle descended through wisps of cloud, the sprawling megalopolis of New Rio coming into view. Alexandra stared out the viewport, trying to reconcile the gleaming spires and bustling skyways with the Rio de Janeiro of her memories. So much had changed, yet beneath the veneer of the future, she could still see echoes of the city she had once known. Beside her, Commander Riker let out a low whistle. "It's incredible," he murmured, "like something out of a dream." Alexandra nodded, unable to tear her gaze away. The shuttle banked, angling toward a massive structure at the heart of the city. It rose like a mountain of glass and steel, dwarfing the buildings around it. The United Earth Government Complex, the heart of human space. As they touched down on a landing pad near the summit, Alexandra saw a reception committee waiting for them. She recognized President Ixel, flanked by a dozen other figures in formal attire, representatives of the other star nations, she guessed. The ramp lowered, and Alexandra led her team out onto the pad. The air was warm and humid, heavy with the scent of the sea. It smelled like home. "Captain Novak, welcome to New Rio," President Ixel said, striding forward to shake her hand. "And welcome back to Earth." Alexandra returned the handshake, feeling the weight of history in the moment. "It's good to be back, Mr. President, though I wish it were under better circumstances." Ixel's face grew somber. "As do we all. Please come inside. There's much to discuss." They followed the president into the complex, passing through halls lined with artwork from 100 worlds. The mix of familiar and alien was dizzying, a constant reminder of just how much had changed. Finally, they entered a large chamber dominated by a circular table. Holographic displays floated above its surface, showing star maps and fleet dispositions. The representatives took their seats, and Alexandra and her team were gestured to empty chairs. "Captain Novak, Commander Riker, Dr. Soren, thank you for coming," Ixel began. "You know the threat we face from the Craft Dominion. What you may not yet realize is that this is a threat not just to Earth, but to the entire Galactic Council." He gestured to the other representatives. "The nations represented here are all that stand against the Dominion's aggression. And now, with the attack on the orbital ring, they smell blood in the water." A tall, slender alien with luminous blue skin spoke up. "The Craft have long sought to eliminate the Council, to remove the last barrier to their conquest of the galaxy. With Earth weakened, they see their chance." Alexandra leaned forward, studying the star maps with a critical eye. "Then we must not let them succeed. The ancient fleet is ready to fight, to defend Earth and our allies." A murmur went around the table, a mix of relief and skepticism. An avian creature with iridescent feathers ruffled its wings. "Can one fleet, no matter how advanced, truly turn the tide against the Dominion?" Alexandra met the alien's gaze unflinchingly. "We're not just one fleet. We're humanity's best and brightest, the inheritors of a legacy of survival against all odds. And more than that." She looked around the table, at the faces of allies old and new. "We're not alone. The Craft seek to divide us, to conquer us one by one. But together, united, we have a strength they can never match." A chorus of agreement met her words, the representatives straightening in their seats, eyes bright with newfound determination. President Ixel smiled, a fierce, proud thing. "Well said, Captain. The Craft believe us weak, believe Earth ripe for the taking. They're about to learn just how wrong they are." As the meeting turned to strategy and planning, Alexandra felt a fire kindling in her heart. This was what they had been born for, what they had slept 10,000 years to achieve. Not just the defense of Earth, but the defense of all free peoples, all those who stood against tyranny and oppression. The Craft had started this war, but humanity, and the allies they had found in this brave new galaxy, would finish it. Darkness falls. The Craft came at dawn. 1,000 ships, a swarm of sleek, deadly predators, descending on Earth like locusts. The ancient fleet met them in orbit, a wall of steel and defiance, but for every enemy ship they destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. On the bridge of the Avenger, Captain Alexandra Novak gritted her teeth as another volley of fire rocked the ship. Status report. Shields at 30%. Commander Riker shouted over the blare of alarms. Hull breaches on decks 7 and 12. "We can't take much more of this." Alexandra slammed her fist on the armrest of her chair. The Craft had caught them off guard, striking before Earth and its allies could fully mobilize their forces. The ancient fleet was putting up a valiant fight, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. And then the unthinkable happened. A massive Craft dreadnought, a behemoth of a ship, broke through the defensive line. It unleashed a torrent of fire on the orbital ring, already weakened from the previous attack. The ring shattered. Alexandra watched in horror as the marvel of engineering, the symbol of Earth's unity and progress, broke apart. Fragments spun away into space, some tumbling down into the atmosphere, trailing fire like falling stars. "No," she whispered, her heart clenching. So many lives lost, so much hope destroyed. But there was no time to grieve. The dreadnought was turning its attention to the planet below, its weapons glowing with deadly intent. "All ships, concentrate fire on that dreadnought," Alexandra roared. "We cannot let it reach Earth." The ancient fleet surged forward, battered but unbroken. They swarmed the dreadnought like angry bees, stinging with lasers and missiles. The giant ship's shields flickered, then failed under the onslaught. But even as it died, the dreadnought struck back. A final, spiteful blast from its main cannon punched through the Avengers' weakened shields, carving a fiery path of destruction through the ship's heart. Alexandra was thrown from her chair as the bridge exploded around her. She hit the deck hard, pain lancing through her body. Through hazy eyes, she saw Elias slumped over his console, blood trickling from his temple. "Elias," she croaked, dragging herself towards him. But before she could reach him, strong hands gripped her shoulders, pulling her back. "Captain, we need to go." It was Dr. Soren, the ship's chief medical officer. His face was grim, soot-streaked. "The Avenger is lost. We need to evacuate." Alexandra wanted to protest, to stay with her ship with her crew. But she knew her duty. Earth needed her, needed the ancient fleet. With a final, anguished look at Elias and the ruins of her bridge, she allowed Soren to pull her away. The battle raged on as escape pods streaked away from the dying Avenger. The craft had been dealt a heavy blow, their dreadnought destroyed, but they kept coming, an endless tide of hatred and aggression. In her pod, nursing her wounds, Alexandra watched the flashes of light that marked the deaths of ships and crews. The orbital ring was gone, the ancient fleet reduced to a battered remnant. But Earth still stood, and as long as one human drew breath, as long as one ship still flew the flag of the United Earth Federation, the fight would go on. The craft had brought darkness to Earth's skies, but they had forgotten one crucial thing about humanity, one truth that had held across the millennia. The darker the night, the brighter the stars shine. And as Alexandra watched, a new constellation of lights appeared on the horizon. The ships of the Galactic Council, rallying to Earth's defense at last. The real battle was about to begin. The last stand. The Allied fleet gathered above Earth, a glittering array of ships from 100 worlds. At their center, the remnants of the ancient fleet, battered but unbowed, ready for one final stand. On the bridge of the Titan, the last of the great human dreadnoughts, Captain Alexandra Novak stood tall, her wounds bandaged, her eyes blazing with determination. Around her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, preparing for the battle to come. On the view screen, the face of President Ixel appeared, lined with fatigue but firm with resolve. "Captain Novak, the people of Earth owe you and your fleet a debt we can never repay." Alexandra shook her head. "We're not done paying our debts yet, Mr. President. The craft are still out there, and they won't stop until Earth is a cinder." Ixel's face hardened. "Then let's make sure that never happens. The Council fleet is at your command, Captain. Give the craft hell." As the screen went blank, Alexandra turned to her crew. "You heard the man. Let's finish this." The fleet moved out, a united front against the darkness. They met the craft in the shadow of the moon, the ancient guardian bearing silent witness to the clash of titans. The battle was joined, a chaos of light and fire, of screams and prayers. Ships died by the dozens, human and alien alike. But for every vessel that fell, two more surged forward to take its place. At the heart of the maelstrom, the Titan led the charge, Alexandra at the helm. They carved a path through the craft lines, drawing the enemy's fire, buying time for the smaller ships to strike at the flanks. But the craft were relentless. For every ship destroyed, more poured in from the depths of space, a seemingly endless horde bent on Earth's destruction. On the Titan's bridge, consoles exploded in showers of sparks as the ship took hit after hit. Alexandra gripped the arms of her chair, her knuckles white, as the deck shuddered beneath her feet. "Shields critical," the tactical officer shouted. "We can't take much more of this." Alexandra gritted her teeth. They had to hold, just a little longer, just until. And then, like a miracle, a new voice crackled over the comm. "This is Admiral Zarn of the Galactic Council Reserve Fleet. Sorry we're late to the party." Fresh ships, gleaming and deadly, dropped out of warp, slamming into the craft's rear like a thunderbolt. The enemy reeled, caught between the hammer of the reserves and the anvil of the main fleet. Alexandra felt a fierce grin tug at her lips. "All right, people, this is it. All ships, full attack. For Earth. For the Council. For every free world in the galaxy." The Allied fleet surged forward as one, a united front against the dark. Craft ships shattered and burned under the onslaught, their formation breaking, their lines crumbling. And then, in a final, desperate gamble, the craft flagship broke through the Allied defenses, charging straight for Earth, its weapons primed for planetary bombardment. There was no time for orders, no time for thought. Alexandra acted on instinct, on the unbreakable human drive to protect, to defend, to sacrifice. She aimed the Titan straight at the flagship and punched the engines to full. The two colossal ships collided in a cataclysm of fire and fury. The flagship's shields shattered, its hull crumpling like paper. The Titan, already damaged, broke apart, the bridge tower shearing away in a scream of tortured metal. Alexandra was thrown clear, her suit automatically sealing against the vacuum. She watched as the Titan and the flagship tumbled away, locked in a fatal embrace, to vanish in a blinding flash of mutual annihilation. Around her, the battle turned, the craft fleet breaking, fleeing before the Allied onslaught. Ships pursued, harrying the enemy back to the depths of space, ensuring they would never threaten Earth again. And above it all, Earth hung serene, blue and green and perfect, a jewel in the heavens, safe at last. As rescue ships converged on Alexandra's position, as cheers of victory echoed across the comm channels, she felt a deep, abiding peace. They had done it. Against all odds, against all reason, they had won. Earth was safe. The galaxy was free. And though the cost had been high, though so many had given their lives, their sacrifice had not been in vain. As Alexandra was pulled into the airlock of a rescue ship, as the hatch sealed shut behind her, she knew that this was not the end. There would be other battles, other challenges, in the days and years to come. But whatever the future held, one thing was certain. Humanity, and the allies they had found among the stars, would face it together. United, unbroken, unbowed. A new dawn. The sun rose over a changed Earth. In the cities, in the streets, in homes and halls across the planet, people looked to the sky with new eyes. The terror and despair of the Krath invasion had given way to a cautious hope, a sense of unity and purpose not seen in generations. In New Rio, in a small park where once a young girl named Alexandra Novak had played, a memorial stood. It was a simple thing, a slab of black stone etched with silver names, the names of the fallen, of the brave souls who had given their lives in defense of Earth and the galaxy. Before the memorial, an old woman stood, her hair as white as starlight, her eyes as deep as the void. She traced her fingers over one name in particular, carved deep into the stone. Elias Recker. "I miss you, old friend," Alexandra whispered, her voice thin with age, but thick with emotion. "Every day." It had been 50 years since the Battle of Earth, since the ancient fleet had made its final stand against the darkness. 50 years of peace, of rebuilding, of forging bonds between worlds that had once seemed impossible. The galaxy had changed, in ways both wondrous and terrifying. New worlds had been discovered, new species contacted. Alliances had been made and tested, borders redrawn and reaffirmed. Through it all, Earth had stood tall, a beacon of unity and strength, a cornerstone of the new Galactic Federation. And through it all, Alexandra had been there. As admiral, as ambassador, as counselor, she had worked tirelessly to build a better future, to ensure that the sacrifices of the past had not been in vain. But now, as the sun rose on a new dawn, Alexandra knew her work was done. The torch had been passed to a new generation, young men and women with fire in their hearts and stars in their eyes, ready to take humanity and its allies to heights she could only imagine. As she stepped back from the memorial, a figure approached, tall and proud, with the 4 golden stars of a fleet admiral on his collar. Alexandra's son, the child she had named after the man who had been closer than a brother. "Mother," Admiral Elias Novak said softly, offering his arm. "It's time." Alexandra took her son's arm, leaning on him as they walked towards the waiting shuttle. Around them, the city bustled with life, humans and aliens alike going about their lives, a tapestry of diversity and harmony. As they reached the shuttle, Alexandra paused, looking back one last time. In her mind's eye, she saw them all again. Elias, Dr. Soren, President Ixel, the brave crews of the ancient fleet, the allies they had found among the stars, all those who had fought, who had bled, who had died, so that others might live. "Thank you," she whispered, to the ghosts of memory and the winds of time. "Thank you all." Then, with a final, resolute nod, Alexandra Novak, the savior of Earth, the champion of the galaxy, stepped into the shuttle and into the annals of history. Above, the stars shone bright, 1,000,000 suns, 1,000,000 worlds, 1,000,000 stories yet to be told. And among them, a single blue planet, small but brilliant, the cradle of a species that had looked into the face of oblivion and had not blinked. The ancient fleet was gone, but its legacy endured. In the hearts of all who called the stars home, in the tales whispered in the dark between worlds, in the dreams of children on 1,000 planets. For they had stood against the darkness, and they had not fallen. They had shown the galaxy the true measure of the human spirit, the indomitable will, the unbreakable bond of unity. They had been the first to stand, but they would not be the last.